There's a presence some people carry that doesn't announce itself with volume or spectacle, yet everyone notices it. It's not arrogance. It's not charm manufactured for approval. It's something deeper, something earned through discipline, silence, and an unshakable relationship with themselves. The Stoics understood this magnetism centuries before modern psychology gave it names like confidence or charisma. They knew that attraction isn't about what you project outward, but what you've cultivated within. It's the stillness you maintain when chaos erupts around you. It's the integrity you honor when no one is watching. It's the quiet refusal to bend yourself into shapes that betray who you are. Most people spend their lives performing, adjusting, seeking validation from a world that will never be satisfied. But the few who turn inward, who build themselves according to principle rather than praise, become magnetic without effort. Today, we're exploring 6 Stoic habits that don't just make you attractive to others, they make you unshakable to yourself. And that, more than anything, is what people feel when they're in your presence. Habit 1: Foundational inner trait. The first habit is self-awareness without self-obsession. The Stoics believed that knowing yourself, your triggers, your weaknesses, your patterns, was the foundation of all virtue. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Most people move through life reacting, enslaved to impulses they've never examined. They explode in anger and call it passion. They crumble under criticism and call it sensitivity. But the person who has studied themselves, who knows exactly why certain words sting and why certain situations unsettle them, moves through the world differently. They don't suppress emotion. They understand it. They don't pretend to be invulnerable. They simply refuse to be controlled by forces within themselves they haven't taken the time to know. This self-awareness creates a gravitational pull because it's rare. People are accustomed to interacting with masks, with performances, with carefully managed facades. But when they encounter someone who knows themselves deeply, who doesn't flinch when their flaws are mentioned because they've already made peace with them, it's disarming. There's no manipulation to decode, no hidden agenda to uncover. Just presence, just honesty. And in a world saturated with illusion, that kind of authenticity is magnetic. Start here. Spend time in reflection, journal, meditate, examine your reactions without judgment. The relationship you build with yourself becomes the foundation every other relationship stands on. Habit 2: Emotional control or inner peace. The second habit is emotional sovereignty. The ability to remain calm when everything around you is burning. Epictetus taught his students to distinguish between what they could control and what they couldn't. Your thoughts, your actions, your responses, these belong to you. Everything else, the traffic, the betrayal, the rejection, the cruelty of strangers, exists outside your jurisdiction. Most people exhaust themselves trying to control the uncontrollable. They rage at weather. They argue with reality. They destroy their peace trying to force outcomes that were never theirs to dictate. But the Stoic understands that serenity isn't found in favorable circumstances. It's found in the refusal to let circumstances steal your composure. Imagine someone who doesn't explode when insulted, who doesn't spiral when plans collapse, who meets disappointment with the same steadiness they meet success. That's not apathy. That's mastery. And people feel it. In a world where everyone is perpetually reactive, triggered by notifications and opinions and minor inconveniences, the person who remains grounded becomes a refuge. Others are drawn to that energy because it's stabilizing. It reminds them that peace is possible. Practice this daily. When frustration rises, pause. Ask yourself, is this within my control? If it's not, release it. If it is, act without emotion clouding your judgment. Train yourself to respond rather than react. This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means processing them privately, rationally, so that your external presence reflects strength rather than chaos. Over time, this composure becomes your signature. And nothing is more attractive than someone who cannot be shaken by the storms that break everyone else. Habit 3, speaking with purpose. The third habit is intentional speech. The discipline of silence and the power of words chosen carefully. Seneca warned, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality." But he also understood that careless words create unnecessary suffering, both for ourselves and others. The Stoic doesn't fill silence with noise. They don't speak to impress, to dominate, or to fill awkward gaps. They speak when their words add value, when they carry truth, when they align with who they claim to be. There's a gravitational weight to someone who chooses their words with care. When they speak, people listen, because they've learned that nothing is wasted. Every sentence has intention. Every opinion has been considered. Compare this to the person who talks endlessly, who broadcasts every fleeting thought, who uses words as a shield against discomfort. Their speech loses currency. It becomes background noise. But the person who embraces silence, who listens more than they pontificate, who waits until they have something meaningful to contribute, commands attention without demanding it. This habit also protects you. The less you reveal impulsively, the less ammunition you give to those who would misinterpret or manipulate your words. The Stoics believed in guarding your inner citadel, and speech is one of its gates. Practice this. Before you speak, ask yourself, is this true? Is this necessary? Is this kind? Let silence be your default. Let your words be deliberate. Over time, you'll notice that people lean in when you speak, because they know it matters. Habit 4, adversity and resilience. The fourth habit is embracing adversity as your greatest teacher. The Stoics didn't just endure hardship. They welcomed it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This philosophy, known as the obstacle is the way, reframes struggle as opportunity. Most people avoid discomfort. They seek ease, convenience, paths of least resistance. And in doing so, they remain weak, untested, fragile. But the person who has weathered storms, who has failed and rebuilt, who has suffered and emerged with their principles intact, carries a depth that comfort can never forge. There's a quiet strength in their eyes, a resilience in their posture. They don't broadcast their struggles. They don't perform vulnerability for sympathy. They simply move through life with the knowledge that they've survived worse, and they'll survive whatever comes next. This is deeply attractive because it signals reliability. In a world where most people crumble under pressure, the person who has been tempered by adversity becomes someone others can depend on. The Stoics also practiced amor fati, love of fate. Not just acceptance of what happens, but gratitude for it, because every experience, especially the painful ones, shapes you into someone stronger, wiser, more capable. Start viewing your challenges this way. That rejection wasn't failure. It was refinement. That betrayal wasn't the end. It was education. That loss wasn't punishment. It was preparation. When you stop resisting difficulty and start extracting its lessons, you transform. And that transformation radiates from you in ways words can't capture. People feel it, and they're drawn to it. Habit 5, integrity over approval. The fifth habit is choosing principle over popularity, integrity over applause. Cato the Younger, one of history's most revered Stoics, was famous for his refusal to compromise his values, even when it cost him everything. He understood that the moment you sacrifice your principles for approval, you lose the only thing that truly belongs to you, your character. Most people are desperate to be liked. They mold themselves to fit rooms, agreeing with opinions they don't hold, laughing at jokes they don't find funny, hiding beliefs they fear will alienate them. And in doing so, they become forgettable, interchangeable, a reflection of whoever they're standing next to. But the person who stands firm in their values, who says no when everyone else says yes, who walks alone rather than compromise who they are, becomes unforgettable. This doesn't mean being stubborn or self-righteous. It means knowing what you stand for and refusing to betray it for comfort or convenience. The Stoics believe that your character is your only true possession. Wealth can be taken. Status can be lost. Relationships can end. But who you are when no one is watching, the decisions you make when integrity costs you something, that remains. And people recognize this. They may not always agree with you. They may not always like you. But they will respect you. And respect, rooted in authenticity, creates a magnetism that approval-seeking never will. Practice this by identifying your core values. Write them down. Then audit your life. Are your actions aligned with those values, or are you performing a version of yourself designed to please others? The gap between who you are and who you pretend to be is where your power leaks. Close it. Habit 6: Growth over perfection. The sixth habit is commitment to perpetual growth rather than the illusion of perfection. Epictetus reminded his students, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The Stoic path isn't about arriving at some flawless state. It's about the daily practice of becoming slightly better than you were yesterday. Most people are paralyzed by perfectionism. They don't start because they fear they won't be great immediately. They don't share because it's not polished. They don't try because failure feels like evidence of inadequacy. But the person who embraces imperfect action, who stumbles forward with consistency rather than waiting for ideal conditions, builds momentum that perfectionists never achieve. The Stoics understood that virtue is a practice, not a destination. You don't master patience in a single moment. You cultivate it through 1,000 small choices to pause before reacting. You don't become courageous overnight. You build it by facing small fears until larger ones no longer paralyze you. This growth mindset is magnetic because it's humble without being weak. It's confident without being arrogant. It says, "I'm not perfect, but I'm committed to the work." And that's far more compelling than someone pretending they've already arrived. People are drawn to those who are evolving because it gives them permission to evolve too. Your willingness to be a work in progress, to acknowledge flaws while actively working on them, creates space for authentic connection. Start seeing yourself as a lifelong student. Read, reflect, experiment, fail, adjust, repeat. The journey itself becomes the attraction. These 6 habits: self-awareness, emotional control, intentional speech, resilience through adversity, integrity over approval, and growth over perfection, are not quick fixes. They're lifelong practices, but they share a common thread. They all turn your focus inward, away from the need for external validation and toward the construction of an unshakable self. That's what makes you magnetic. Not your appearance, not your status, your presence. If you're ready to walk this path, drop one word below that represents the habit you're starting with today. And if you want more philosophy that builds strength from the inside out, subscribe to Anonymous Achiever. The Stoics knew this truth: who you become is the only thing that truly matters. Now go build that person.